Hello, everyone, and welcome to another webisode of All Politics Are Local. I'm WSAV.com now reporter John Dowding. Every week, we take the time to break down some of those big headlines coming from Washington to see how it's impacting us right here in the Coastal Empire and Low Country. And as always, we are joined by WSAV's Washington correspondent, Kellie Myers. Hey, Kellie, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. How are you?
Of course, of course. All right, so it's a bright sunny day here in the Coastal Empire. Hopefully it's kind of the same for y'all out in DC.
It is. Thank you for sending the sun.
Definitely sending the sun, the warm weather, and the good vibes. I mean, during this crazy time, and we were just talking about how we're, starting to get used to this new normal of working from home and Zoom and all that kind of stuff. And I think what is it's kind of throwing me off, honestly, right now, is seeing everything reopen again. I know some of my friends have gone to restaurants, and I just feel like it's so weird because we got so accustomed to not wanting to go to these places and not being able to go to these places. But we're seeing it all across the country. Obviously, Georgia opened up a lot of things. I believe some of the beaches here in Tybee Island are going to open up again today. And there's going to be a lot more similar things going on across the country. So what has been some of the reaction from our local lawmakers? I know we talked about this last week as well, but now that things have really started to get into that groove and get normalized, what are they saying? How are they feeling? And looking at the numbers too of cases, how do they think? What impact do they think it's having on it?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, we're seeing a lot of states looking at how they're going to reopen, what phase, how they're going to get to phase one, phase two, phase three. We're seeing a lot of them pushing forward into this. And the lawmakers I spoke to, both Democrats and Republicans, all want to see things open again. And when I begin the conversation with them, they always say, look, we want people to get back to work. We worry about the people in our community that are struggling, how we do it. And then that's where we see the differences in what Democrats and Republicans are saying about how people can get back. Take, for example, I did a story on Friday about Alabama, and they are reopening, and their Republican governor, Kay Ivey, was saying, okay, let's reopen on Friday. They call it the Safer at Home Order. Let's reopen some of our businesses, but didn't go as far as, say, Georgia with opening hair salons, tattoo parlors, fitness centers, and not even opening restaurants, where in South Carolina we saw the opening of some restaurants. So Alabama isn't doing that. And that gained some criticism from many people in the state, and as well as a Republican congressman I talked with, Bradley Byrne, saying, I suggested that she open restaurants. Why not? I hope she reconsiders and opens them in the next week or two. And then when you talk with Democrats like Congresswoman Terry Sewell or Senator Doug Jones, they said they applauded her approach and said, yeah, we should take it slow. We don't have enough testing to get there yet. So that's what we're seeing. There's a bit of a difference there.
And I think you just brought up a great point there, is the ability to test people. Georgia just got a bunch of testing available last week. I did a story last week where the health department was trying to let people know that they have these drive-through sites in our area. You just have to call and make an appointment. They even said, do you think you, in the press release at the top, it said, do you think you have allergies? Do you think it's the flu? Do you think maybe it could be COVID-19? Doesn't matter. Get tested, because that's going to help them make better estimations and better observations, I should say, about what they should do. And I think that's a great point too, is being able to see and being able for states to be able to get more of those testing so they can see how the community is doing and see how the virus is spreading. So aside from Alabama, I know we've heard from, as you were just talking about, Alabama and Georgia. What other states across the country are looking at reopening? I know that core group of northeastern states are still kind of hunkered down for the time being and for the foreseeable future. But what about other areas of the country?
Well, I was even just listening in here. So I'm in DC right now, and obviously surrounded by Maryland and Virginia. We saw a lot of cases in Prince George's County in Maryland. Virginia, the governor there is going to be looking at how they're going to start moving into phase one. I believe he has a press conference happening later today. So it's interesting to see how you go up the East Coast, like you said, how they're going to look at it. And then we're seeing, in the Northeast, obviously New York City, still struggling with this. So, and then also new reporting, I believe our executive producer mentioned something out of Pennsylvania University saying, well, as people begin to open up, we're going to see maybe 200 plus deaths as we go into reopening the country again. So it's really this delicate balance that everyone's referring to as we reopen and get people back to work, but also continue to keep people safe.
No, that's definitely, it's going to be a weird kind of dichotomy of wanting to things to reopen but keeping people safe. So basically, just in general, it seems like everybody's trying to get their footing with this whole reopening process because it's so unprecedented. But I really, really want us to talk about looking ahead. I feel like every week we kind of touch on it a little bit, and I kind of want us to talk about it a little bit more.
Yeah.
What new things can we expect to come out of Washington? That kind of thing. So let's just start general, and then we can try and get more specific with this. What are you anticipating to be some of the big headlines coming out of DC this week that have an impact on us right here in coastal Georgia and South Carolina? What are you seeing? What are you hearing from lawmakers? What can we anticipate?
Well, I'm getting emails popping in as we're talking here from senators that are coming back today. So, like you said, the Senate's returning this week. So, one of the things that Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is looking at is confirming judges. Everyone's heard that that's what he wants to be working on, making sure he confirms them. It's something that he wants to get the Senate back to do. But others, both Republicans and Democrats, are looking into a phase 4 package, and they want to see, more healthcare funding. I know with Clyburn. He's talking about broadband and helping people in these rural communities or minority communities that don't have access to fast, high-speed internet in a time like this where we're all staying connected with that for school or work or whatever it may be. So we're going to be looking at that. We may see the House return next week. But again, it's a delicate situation too, even on here on Capitol Hill, as we look towards how are they going to respond with a relief bill. We also have to look at how they're even going to get back here to do that, to vote on it. So we're kind of paying close attention here to making sure that they also stay safe as they return up here. There was something like maybe not enough testing for even the senators to get tested or the members of the House to get tested. So we're looking at that and monitoring it as well. So we're going to see them coming back here this weekend. We'll definitely keep you informed of what adds into it as they go on, but keep an eye on that in the next week or two.
I mean, and that was, I think, an important point to bring up too that I kind of was thinking of last week. Mitch McConnell said Senate's coming back, and Nancy Pelosi said, "Nah, the House is not coming back." I mean, when you think about it from CDC regulations, the House is really not a safe place with the amount of people in a small room congregated so closely together from different parts of the country, literally.
Yeah,
Uh, so it's a weird
yeah.
business. I mean, we see today the Supreme Court, what, maybe 10, 15 minutes ago, are doing
Yeah.
their stuff online. They're doing the proceedings
It's
online.
fascinating.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's going to be really cool to see for the first time in history. We can all get, a camera in there. Um, but it's definitely going to be weird. And that was my biggest question. I remember when all of this first started happening, even Buddy Carter said, this is one of many things we want to do. This is one of many relief bills and packages we want to get put forward. But how are those packages supposed to pass if legislators can't be allowed back into DC? So I think that's
Yeah.
big question that's still looming kind of up in the air.
And
Um,
I think you'll see something coming together maybe mid-May. I don't know. I can't predict the future, but just getting a sense of when they may be back here and when they could get something together. That's what they're looking at too. But then you also have to put into play that Republican leadership is saying, well, let's make sure what we've already put in is working. I know I've talked to some lawmakers that they can't keep putting all of this money in. They need at some point for the economy to reopen and start, stimulating itself there as well. So it's going to be interesting to see, even as they get back, how they agree on something.
yeah, and trying to figure out how they can kind of, like you said, jumpstart everything again without needing all of the governmental kind of pushes to be able to kickstart it again.
Yeah.
Aside from that, development of a new bill and confirmation of judges. Um, let's ask from the White House side before we go. What can we see from the White House kind of pushing out this week? Do they have any sort of talking points they really want to start getting out? Have you heard anything at all? What can we expect?
I looked at the president's schedule for today, and there's actually absolutely nothing on his daily schedule. So I know we had a busy weekend at Camp David. He had his Fox town hall last night at an incredible location at the Lincoln Memorial and socially distanced safely up there. But I think they are going to be looking at reopening. I think that's going to be their next thing. How can they approach it? How can they give guidelines and, making sure people continue to follow these White House guidelines as to reopening? But as far as what they got up to today, not too much. I'm actually also monitoring the White House this week. We rotate our White House week positions here with the DC Bureau. So this is my week. So anything I hear, I can promise you, I will let you know. You'll be the first text, and we'll find out what they're working on.
I think we're all going to be just keeping our eyes out this week. Like you said, it's kind of weird because we've all been getting used to this new normal of working from home, being distant, wearing masks, being smart, washing hands, all that kind of stuff. And now things are starting to reopen again. And so now we have to adjust to a completely new normal throughout all of this. But as
Whole new batch of anxiety.
another batch of anxiety added to that. Exactly. Well, thank you as always, Kellie, for taking the time to talk to us. I really do appreciate it.
Always. Thank you for having me.
Course. All right. And you can see more of Kellie's stories online on our website right now. Just go to wsav.com/Washington, and you can see previous episodes of All Politics Are Local on our website as well. You can just head over to wsav.com/All Politics Are Local. Thank you so much for watching this week's episode. We'll see you again next week on All Politics Are Local.